Number 7 for Peyton Manning. I think the entire city of Indianapolis would have a lot to say about that. I don't think they'd agree at all. David Letterman famously said when Peyton Manning's statue went up outside Lucas Oil Stadium that before this guy showed up in town, this city was a racetrack with a jail.
Take a look around you at this city, ladies and gentlemen. When I lived here, it was like a minimum security prison with a racetrack.
There was not a lot going on in Indianapolis, and David Letterman's words were, he lifted the entire skyline of this city.
This man didn't do it alone, but by God, he was at the center of it. Look around us. He changed the skyline. This used to be a small town. It was a wonderful small town. This man has changed the skyline of this city.
And he transcended the quarterback position, but he also transcended this town of Indianapolis. What made Peyton Manning so unique was everything. There was no one that did it like he did it beforehand. With the command at the line of scrimmage, he did wonders for the city of Omaha because that was his favorite audible call. His offense and the Colts offense in those years changed the way the offense was played and has been played since, with the audibles at the line of scrimmage, with the checks, with the verbal cues, with the way they threw it nonstop, with the no huddle the entire game. He bridged the NFL into a new era of offensive football with the way he commanded the entire team and really ran the entire franchise. If there's one thing that stands out the most about Peyton, it's not the physical attributes. It's the alpha in him, right? He was the boss, and everybody knew it. And some of his teammates have told me over the years, playing with him was kind of a pain in the ass because he was on them all the time. But they also say this, he made us all better. He made every one of them better. And if you look at that group, Tony Dungy's in the Hall of Fame, Bill Polian's in the Hall of Fame, Marvin Harrison's in the Hall of Fame, Edgerrin James in the Hall of Fame, Peyton Manning's in the Hall of Fame. 18 drove the car, he drove the bus, and his alpha-ness and obsession with getting better from a mental perspective carried everybody up with him. Peyton Manning is a legendary prankster. Ask any one of his teammates and they'll tell you about the cars and the golf carts they found in the middle of ponds at training camp, about the stuff they would find in their lockers. And look, we couldn't turn on the TV for about 10 years without seeing Peyton Manning every 3 commercials, right? It almost got annoying. But I think the reason it worked, one is because he could make fun of himself. He's this goofy Southern dude with this huge Southern drawl. I think the reason it worked is because he was the hardest working player in the league for so long. If you do all those commercials, it doesn't work if your success on the field isn't there. And they won 12 games or more, 7 years in a row, which is a record. The winningest team from 2000 to 2009, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and the city's only Super Bowl championship. It was so special to watch. I imagine it's like watching Magic and Bird in the 80s and Russell and Chamberlain in the 60s, to watch 2 of the absolute all-time greats go head-to-head. Every time there was a regular season game, it felt like the world stopped because it was the biggest game of the year. And they met in the playoffs so many times, and almost every single time whoever won that game went on to win the Super Bowl. And Brady had the upper hand early, but a lot of people don't know this. Peyton went 3-1 against Brady in AFC Championship games. And for a long time, the Bill Belichick Patriots, the Tom Brady Patriots, were the thorn in Manning's side. And he'll tell you to this day, his career would not be complete without that 2006 title game win at home against the Patriots. He had to get over the hump. The Super Bowl was almost an afterthought. They had to get over the hump. The emotional and spiritual and physical toll of losing to the Patriots all those years, his career wouldn't be complete without that victory. It was so fun to watch those guys go at it, and it really felt like a Super Bowl even in the AFC Championship game. The game that means the most is the 2006 AFC Championship game. He set the stage in horrific fashion early. They were down 21-3 in the first half. He threw an interception to Asante Samuel that Samuel took back. The Colts were getting routed against their rivals on their home field. And that was a low point. And a lot of people had wondered if Peyton was ever going to climb out of that can he win the big one question. And he lit it up in the second half. The Colts scored 34 points in the second half, tore apart Belichick's defense. And that was the signature moment for him in this city, to do it against that team on that stage. And I'll never forget what Teddy Bruschi said years later. He said, there was no player I respected more when I played against him than Peyton Manning. And that's the kind of respect that Peyton got later in his career from a lot of linebackers and defensive players. But he was absolutely lights out when he needed to be in the biggest moment of his career in January of 2007. It became really difficult late in his career to compare him to Brady. Manning had all the numbers, right? He had 50 touchdowns, 55 with the Broncos. But in the gap with Super Bowls, Brady just kept inching ahead and ahead, and it's really hard to compare them when Manning only had one. And I think that's something that Aaron Rodgers is facing right now. So many years of prolific quarterback play, one Super Bowl. And that was the question Peyton had to deal with for a long time, because he not only won his first, he lost his next two against the Saints, once with the Colts, and then against the Seahawks when he was with the Broncos. And maybe he was along for the ride for that last Super Bowl with the Broncos, but having two makes a big difference because, one, his brother has two, and you just have to have two for a guy that won so consistently for so long. It matters a lot to these quarterbacks, and I guarantee you Peyton cares about that. Everything. That team was so good, they should have won the year before. To measure Peyton's impact on Indianapolis is impossible. It's immeasurable, it's unquantifiable. There's so many bars and restaurants that are downtown because, in correlation to his success, to the Colts' success, ticket prices rose. They built a new $720 million Lucas Oil Stadium. The Combine has stayed here. The Colts became a national brand for a couple of years simply because the quarterback was so recognizable. Free agents wanted to come here. I would argue to this day, and I'm biased because I grew up here in Indianapolis, that no player has ever meant more to his city than Peyton Manning meant to Indianapolis.